Hi everyone, in this video I'll be showing you how I paint these frames I find and how I make them work with my artwork. This is a video for someone that maybe doesn't have the resources available to get everything custom framed and you just want to do it by yourself. I also want to add that this doesn't require a huge amount of space to do, so if you're in a tiny apartment like I am, totally works out. Just make sure you keep everything clean in order for this to go smoothly. Alright, so let's talk about this frame I found. This was on sale. It was just like a regular frame. I liked the shape of the molding, so I wanted to paint over the molding shape. So what I used was a spoon. Not the most professional tool, but like I said, this is for anyone doing this at home. If you have a spoon, do that because you're going to hurt your fingers. Just make sure you don't scrape the backing on it when you're pushing up the nails. Alright, so after that I took this in a very well ventilated area. I put down some plastic to make sure there was no overspray. Now I would recommend obviously using like paper bags instead and not wasting a bunch of plastic, but I didn't have any at the moment. I just used a trash bag I had and cut it open. After you lay that down, you can do one of two things. So you can either just go in with the spray paint. I've never had an issue with this type of spray paint coming off at all. I have never had that happen. However, it depends on what material you're using. So if you have a metal frame, you might need to sand it first and then use a primer before you go in. Because this was like a wooden frame, I didn't see the need to do that. I've never had an issue with this on wooden frames before. I just make sure it was sanded down enough so that it could grab onto the product. And what I'm doing is I'm just doing one good layer. Make sure you're not too close or too far away. Just give it like 6 inches away about and give an even coat. Make sure you don't go too thick because you will get running marks and you do not want a streaky mess. You know, I always gave it like an hour in between because I just don't want to risk having a muddy mess of just multiple layers of wet paint. So make sure it is totally, not just dry to the touch, it is actually dry. I had some leftover silver spray paint and I wanted to see if I could make that show through a little bit. I put a light coat of silver over the top because later I was going to put a layer of black on top and then distress it a little. So I thought, hey, maybe through like the distressed parts you'll see a little bit of the silver come through to give more of a metallic finish to it. After I let it dry a decent amount, it didn't take as long to dry because it was a very thin coating of silver. I went over that with another light pass of black. The lighting here is kind of not great, it's just my patio light, so I apologize for that, but I just did a really light coating of black over the top of that silver, so then later if I lightly sand it, you can't really see straight up silver, but you can see kind of like an undertone of a shimmer, you know what I mean? So after that I used a very gritty piece of sandpaper. It was 100 or something, so that means there's less particles per square inch, something like that. So it's grittier. I chose something very gritty because I wanted to have that distressed look on the edges. If you do use this type of sandpaper, just be very careful you go with the grain, because if you don't, it'll look scratchy and gross and not great. And so what I did was, when I go to the corners, I lifted it up so that I didn't accidentally get the other part of the frame had the grain going another direction. So just be careful about that. And do it very lightly, because this stuff is rough. So after sanding it, get a clean cloth and just wipe away any of the particles that came off after you sanded it. Then after you wipe it off outside, take it inside, lay down a clean towel and get this can of air, basically. It's used for cleaning keyboards and things like that, but it's just basically a cleaning duster, and it blows a lot of air out and gets all the dust out. So use that in a clean area, because if you do it right where you wiped off all of those particles, you're just going to blow them right back onto your frame, and we don't want that. Then after that, if there's any imperfections, I used a clean nail file that's very smooth, just for like buffing and smoothing away things, because the curve of the edge of it went into like the molding of the frame. Yeah, I just had a little bump that was bothering me. I just wanted to sand that away, and after that I applied a very, very light amount of black spray paint on top of that, and I was good to go. Then after that, I got clear mounting tape. Instead of just regular tape, it's like thick, translucent, rubbery plastic. This is what I'm using it for. So, because this frame doesn't have a mat, and I don't want to use a mat for this, I don't want my artwork to touch the glass, because over time what will happen is, if it's around heat or sunlight over the years, the paint will fuse onto the glass, and then you'll have to peel it off when you want to reframe it, and it just isn't gonna be good. It's gonna ruin the painting completely. So, and what you would normally use in a frame shop is something called a spacer or something like that. People call them a lot of different things, and they're basically just long pieces of plastic that are about an eighth of an inch square, and one side of them is sticky, and you measure them to each side of the frame and you mount them onto the side of the frame. So if you looked at the painting as framed already by its side, you wouldn't see it because it would blend into the color of the frame, but it's basically a piece of plastic put inside the frame between the glass and the artwork to keep the artwork from fusing onto the glass. Because I couldn't find those things literally anywhere I went with what I had to use, and I got mounting tape, and basically what I did was I trimmed it to be about an eighth of an inch in width, and because it was translucent, I wasn't super concerned about it showing on either side of the frame. Before you even put your artwork inside, get air and blow that onto the frame after you clean the inside of the glass with some glass cleaner and a towel. Make sure it's completely dry, get rid of any excess dust, and then place the artwork in carefully. Alright, now when you put your artwork inside the frame, make sure your artwork, before you even make your artwork, that you are accounting for about a 1/16 of an inch on each side of whatever you're framing. Make sure that it is a little bit smaller, because if it's the exact image size of the frame, it's going to be really hard to put inside of it, and those nails on the side of the frame are going to be really difficult to get past. So just make sure that that's about a 1/16 of an inch smaller. But if you have a painting and it's on an illustration board, be super careful if you have to trim it. Just be super, super careful, because this is your baby and you don't want to ruin it, okay? So then after that's all framed up, I'm spraying the glass cleaner onto the towel, and then I'm going onto the glass to clean off any fingerprints that are on the glass on the outside. And here is the final look. You can't see any spacer in there. You can't see any plastic that looks janky or anything. It just looks like the frame in my painting. And as you can see, it got a slight metallic finish with that black that I really like. So yeah, I hope this was really helpful, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye!